train driving sounds like a good career, then in my opinion, you'd be right. But like a lot of jobs, it's not always all it's cracked up to be. Hello, I'm Richard, freight train driver, former passenger train driver, and wannabe YouTuber. And this is 10 things you need to know about being a train driver. Hello and welcome to Dad Rail. Just before we jump into the video, and as always, all the opinions expressed within this video are solely my own and may not reflect those of any companies I may be or may have been employed by or associated with. Of course, all the information provided within this video is provided completely free of charge, but if you want to show your appreciation, then a thumbs up and a subscribe would be a great way of doing that. Or if you really like this video, you can join the Dad Rail train crew over on my Patreon page, just like these people down here have done. Also, just a quick caveat, because I know someone in the comment section is going to pick up on it. I accidentally cut myself shaving on my lip just there, so I'm not looking at my best, so I do apologise for that. I've been working on the railway for 15 years now and have been driving trains in one capacity or another for around 10 of those. Train driving is a career that is attractive to lots of people. Some people come for the salary and some come for the love of trains. But whatever your reasons, there are a few things worth considering before you make your application. So hopefully this video doesn't come across as too negative, because as I've said in a lot of my previous videos, train driving is a really good job and I would recommend it to anybody. But these are some of the things that you might want to consider before becoming a train driver. Some of the things we're going to talk about will apply to other jobs, they're not exclusive to train driving, and I've tried to be quite general with my opinion, so hopefully you can take the advice and apply it to your own personal circumstances. Shift work. Nearly all railway work these days, like many other industries, is shift work, and you will be expected to work a combination of different shifts to cover the roster requirements. Shifts can be any length up to 12 or even 13 hours depending on the company you work for and their terms and conditions. It's very likely that you'll have to work night shift as part of your roster. Even if you're working for a passenger company and there are no passenger trains, there are still empty stock movements and shunting in the depot that needs to be done. Weekends and bank holidays, including Christmas and New Year, will form part of your roster and you will be expected to work these on occasions. It's worth having a little look at your preferred company's shift structure to see how they operate. Most companies will have some sort of base roster that may contain 15, 20 or 30 lines, depending on how many drivers there are at your depot or in your particular roster link. You'll start off on a line in the roster and then you'll progress down the roster working through all the lines as the week goes. The base roster will normally contain all of your rest days, so you'll be able to look through it and work out exactly what days off you've got, which is really handy. On most passenger companies as well, the base roster will contain your booked work, because passenger work run to a timetable, the work's very consistent, so they're able to put that in the roster. So you can look down at the roster and work out what train you're working in maybe 3 or 4 weeks' time. Freight companies, on the other hand, with the work being very dynamic, tends to be a flexible roster, so you'll know when your days off are, but you won't know what work you've got until the week before, which can be very annoying. You'll also have what are called spare turns built into the roster, which is where you're effectively spare. You have no booked work, but should someone be sick or should someone be on annual leave, then that will then fall on you to cover it on your spare week. Rostering terms and conditions vary between companies and can make all the difference to the job. Shift work is mentally and physically exhausting and can take its toll on your health. Long and abnormal shifts contribute to fatigue and can make leading a normal life outside of work very difficult, as you need to manage your sleep patterns. Imagine working a Saturday night turn, finishing at 7 AM Sunday morning and then starting work again at 4 AM on Monday for an early shift, with Sunday being classed as your day off. Trying to change your body clock all the time leads to you being permanently jet lagged, and this can have a huge impact on your mental and physical well-being. Social life. Train driving can have a massive impact on your social life. The shift structure means that quite often you'll be working weekends and sometimes bank holidays and Christmas. I've had situations countless times where I've been invited out by my 9 to 5 friends over the weekend, but I've had to decline because I've been working. And it can also take its toll on family life, especially if you have children. For example, the divorce rate amongst railway workers is actually much higher than the national average. Drugs and alcohol policies that are in place for good reasons mean you can't have a drink at your friend's barbecue because you're working the next day. And if you partake in any recreational drugs, then you're going to be out of a job at your next medical or random drugs test. Trying to arrange family gatherings and social events can also be very interesting, and you're often at the mercy of the roster clerk hoping you get your annual leave approved. Tiredness. You will be tired, and fatigue and tiredness is recognised as one of the biggest risk factors amongst railway workers and safety critical staff. Constantly changing shifts, burning the candle at both ends so you can have some sort of social life will make you tired. As a personal example on that point, one of the particular shifts I work, I have to leave home at 1 p.m. in order to travel to that shift and do that shift, and the time the shift's finished and I've travelled home, I'm arriving home at 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. The following morning, if I'm not awake by 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, then if I've got that shift for the week, I may go the whole week without seeing my children, which is obviously far from ideal. So getting a good night's sleep isn't always easy if you're trying to balance family life and things. Obviously, you can go back to bed after the children have gone to school, but then if you've got a wife, husband, partner, or whatever, you know, they want to see you and spend time with you. So you need to be quite disciplined with your sleep routines and stuff like that, and it can be really, really difficult trying to fit everything in around the shift sometimes.
Ultimately, train driving requires you to concentrate for long periods of time. Although we have safety systems in place, something as simple as missing a yellow signal because you've had a lapse in concentration can have disastrous consequences. The train cab is comfortable and warm, and the motion of the train can almost rock you to sleep. If you're already feeling fatigued because of the shift work or other factors, then maintaining your concentration is very difficult. At times your workload in the cab will be low. If you're running for long periods on green signals, you will start to relax, but being able to switch on when you need to is key, and being tired certainly doesn't help with that in the slightest.
The job is boring. I'm expecting to get a little bit of hate in the chat for this, honestly, and a little caveat, I do really enjoy driving trains, but the job is actually really boring. All the time everything's running okay and you're running on green signals and you're on time, there's not much to stimulate your mind and your mind will start to wander. This combined with tiredness creates a massive risk of you not maintaining situational awareness and not being able to switch on when you need to. I've covered this in my previous videos, particularly my How Hard Is It to Drive a Train video, and of course I'll link that in the description below. The novelty of driving trains wears thin pretty quickly, and that's when the love of the job starts to turn into the daily grind a little bit. But like I said, I put the caveat back in there that I really, really do enjoy driving trains, and it is a good job, but it can be really, really boring. Fatalities. Unfortunately, the reality of the job is you may possibly be involved in some sort of one-under incident during your career. You do receive training on what to do in this situation, but I've personally not experienced this situation, but from what I've heard from other drivers, nothing can prepare you for going through that. Companies are very good at offering support, and they will look after you with counselling and such like after an event like that happens. There's a common misconception that if you have 3 or more of these events, then you get a massive payout and you can live happily on a beach somewhere in sunny climates. But I'm telling you now, that is simply not true. No prospects. If you start your train driving career at a young age, or you're a particularly ambitious person, then you need to be aware that train driving is ultimately a bit of a dead-end job. There's very limited prospects for where you can go from being a train driver. Sometimes you'll have maybe management or training vacancies that arrive, but these are few and far between, and obviously not everyone wants to go down that road. You may also find yourself in a situation where you're not enjoying the job, but you can't afford to leave the job. Train driving is very well paid, and once you start living off of a certain salary, you become used to that lifestyle and used to having that level of income. Finding a job outside the railway industry, or even within the railway industry, that's paying the same sort of levels as train driving can be very, very difficult. So you could be in a situation where you're not liking the job, you want to move on, you want to try something different, but your quality of life will suffer because of that, because your income will fall. And sometimes that can be a really, really hard pill to swallow. For example, I started on the railway when I was 19. As I've moved through life, there's lots of things that I see happening now, things that I would like to have pursued, different career opportunities and stuff like that. But because I've now got bills to pay and everything else, and like you do, I've now become dependent on having that level of salary. So cutting down on the salary would be very, very difficult to do. You'd have to change your lifestyle, and it can be a little bit of a trap. Respect is earned. You will be the newbie for quite a long time. I've been on the railway 15 years and I'm still a boy on the job. A lot of depots have their rosters arranged into what's known as a link structure. So if you've got 100 drivers, they might be divided into 4 links of 25 drivers, 4 separate rosters. And as a new driver, you'll start in the bottom link and then you'll work your way up into the middle link and so on and so forth into the top link. Top link, or old man's link as it used to be called, but I'm not sure that that's PC these days. I'm not sure we're allowed to say that. The bottom link work isn't as, let's put this politely, isn't as user-friendly as the top link work. And as you progress through the links, you'll learn different tractions and different routes. So the bottom link work may be all of the stopping services starting stupidly early in the morning and finishing stupidly late at night, whereas the top link work may be fast trains that start about 6 in the morning and finish at 2 in the afternoon. The really nice jobs you might be doing, like rail tour work, or oh yeah, I want to drive the Orient Express, or I want to drive the Flying Scotsman if your company operate that, or I want to drive I don't know, the Royal Train. You're not going to be doing that as bottom link work. That's going to be the guys that have been on the railway for 30-40 years. So some of the staff have been there literally 40, 50, 60 years. Personal example of this, I was working with a gentleman the other day who used to fire steam trains on the East Coast Main Line. He retired and come back in a different role. He's not driving, but he's still on the railway. And you know, you've got to have respect for that. And these older staff are an absolute wealth of knowledge. A lot of people say they've forgotten more than you'll ever know, and I couldn't agree more with that. So treat them with respect, and they'll pass that knowledge on to you, and it will be absolutely invaluable as you go through your career. Late home. Passengers complain all the time about trains being late, and rightly so, with good reason. You pay for your ticket, you expect to get where you're going on time. But if the train's late and you're the driver, you're late as well. And that can be really annoying, especially if you've arranged to go out after work or you've got social events planned. I guess, yes, it's another impact on your social life. So yeah, if the train's late home, you're late home. And what I've tended to find is you'll have a really good period where you're home on time, trains are running great, and then you'll go like 1, 2, 3 weeks where everything's late and it'll just really start getting to you. Not everybody's an enthusiast. If you're a railway enthusiast, you may think that the railway is the ultimate place to be. Lots of railway staff talking about trains and getting into the spirit of things. But the truth is, a large amount of railway staff have got absolutely no interest in trains, and it's purely a job for them, which of course is absolutely fine. You will find individuals that are interested in trains, that are enthusiasts, but they're actually probably going to be in the minority. So if you think you're going to walk into a mess room and it's going to be full of railway enthusiasts chatting trains, you are completely wrong, I'm afraid. And in actual fact, there's a lot of railway staff that completely despise railway enthusiasts. Easy to lose. They say train driving is a job for life, and I sort of agree, because eventually computers will take over. But you're only as good as your last drive or your last medical. A bad medical report or a serious operational incident can see you lose your job very quickly. Most companies will have some sort of ill health arrangement in place, so if you fail your medical, they will offer you alternative employment within the company. But sometimes this can mean relocating, taking a pay freeze, restructuring of terms and conditions, and this sort of thing. Having a SPAD or operational incident isn't normally cause for disciplinary or cause for dismissal, because after all, we're only human and we all make mistakes. But if you're consistently having incidents, constantly having incidents regularly, 1 or 2 a year I would say was pretty consistent, then you're going to find yourself up for a licence review pretty quickly. If you lose your licence, you're not getting it back again. Despite everything I've just said, and it might have sounded quite negative, train driving and railway work in general is really great. The railway is a really diverse and inclusive employer, and I would encourage anyone, if you've got an interest in the railways, or even if you haven't got an interest in the railways, to consider the railways as a career option. If you want to know more about how to apply to become a train driver and want to know more about what it's like to be a train driver and those sorts of things, then do check out my other videos, including my train driver vlog series. So what do you think? Do any of these points surprise you? Or are you a train driver with some advice and knowledge to pass on? If so, let's have a civilised and friendly chat about it in the comment section below or over on my Discord server. Something that's not always easy to do on social media these days, but we're a friendly bunch. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on this video and also subscribe to Dabrail for more content like this. If you've got any questions, do pop them in the comment section below, or join us in our next live stream and I'll be more than happy to answer them live on the air for you. Anyway, that's all for now, guys. Remember, create, share and inspire.